Ah, gosh darn it, if only the wizard wasn't putting the animals in cages. They could have all been... Wait, why was he doing that?
I have been changed for good.
But only one that mattered.
Okay, they've hit us with part 2. That's right. That means they're gonna chuck out all of the bangers from the second act of the play. There's 2 of them. There's just 2 of those. And then they're gonna hit us lots of little bits of reminders of songs from the first one. Remember how we liked that one? You know, if this wasn't just based on the second act of the play, we would think that this was a pretty lazy Hollywood sequel. Wicked for Good stars Cynthiaerivo and Ariana Grande as the Wicked Witch of the West and Grande the Good. Did they ever give her a compass direction? Or is that just for bad bitches? Anyway, time has progressed. Things have moved forward. They have, What year is that? Like, what's going on there? How much time has progressed since they were all in school together? I have, like, you could tell me anything from, like, a week to 10 years. And I think I would pretty much believe, like, either. I'm very confused about it. It doesn't matter. So, everyone hates Elphaba because the only magical ability stronger than hers is a ruthless propaganda machine, and also the ability to create a cyclone, yeah. They talk about how Elphaba's too powerful, we need her on our side, all of this important stuff, she's the one that can read the thing. Without being able to read the thing, Madame Horrible can create a cyclone? Just because she wants to, doesn't seem to really tire her out, she seems fine afterwards, like... She's so powerful, they never... Yep. Couldn't she just fight Elphaba on her own? It does not matter. This is a film hit by the curse that the best stuff in this play is in the first act. It just is. This is a bleak sequel filled with everyone being hateful, everything going wrong. And I mean, it's a musical, so you kind of get the impression as you go along that everything is just going to work out okay. But it's trying to live up to the expectations they have created by not having an intermission, having a year in between. And the second act of Wicked is good. Don't get me wrong, it's good enough. Yeah. But it's good enough as in I would wait an intermission for it, not a year. So they've, there's all this expectation being built up for part 2 of this mega release, this huge thing. And it's just like, they're just kind of going like, yeah, here you go. Here it is. There's the rest of it. And that doesn't work. Like, and the problem is, if I was personally marking like Wicked as a musical, I would say like, oh, well, that first act, that is right up there with the top tier stuff. And then second act, well, not so much. And it's just not as good as a musical, There's a lot of reprises. There are 2 banging songs. I mean, No Good Deed is epic, don't get me wrong, but that's kind of it, There's no, like, shock breakout hits coming from this that the world's gonna be obsessed with on TikTok, I don't think. There's no, like, they're also trying to sidestep the entire story of The Wizard of Oz as they go, which is just awkward. It just is, like, the way they have to skip around that, and wouldn't it have just been easier to cast Dorothy so that you can kind of jump up with those, like, scenes from The Wizard of Oz, like, little snippets of them in the middle, so that we aren't just jumping from one scene where Elphaba and Glinda are literally having, like, a fight to the death if they were guys that had broken up that bad. But the kind of theater girly equivalent, where they're just like, ha, hoo, jump around, like, but they're doing that in one scene, and then they're like singing about how they are the best friends they could ever ask for, possibly, in the next scene. Girls, man. But wouldn't, like, little snippets from, like, essentially The Wizard of Oz, they don't just have to replay the scenes from The Wizard of Oz, but they could, and I would have been happy enough with it. Wouldn't that just be better for breaking it up a little bit, some of these bits that are maybe, again, weeks apart? I have no idea. They really skip through the story of The Wizard of Oz so fast. Like, they are trying desperately to pretend that didn't even happen. None of that's going on. And yet they also implicitly, you need to know what happens in The Wizard of Oz before you'll really understand parts of this. There's both some great songs and lovely moments in this one. For anyone who actually waited a year without ever getting the actual play spoiled for them, good for you, huge moment you get there. But in the age of social media, I just don't think that there's many of those people, and I think that's the main problem with this. But also, yeah, it is just, there's nothing they could do, This play just played out like it does, and they did even fix one ambiguity from the play, the kind of ending that I really appreciate them having done. But there's only so much they could do here, and if anyone shits on this film, it's really just a result of them breaking this up and not just making a 4-hour film, which is what they definitely should have done. I guess maybe it is just hard to know how I'm going to feel about this in the long term right now. I feel the same way about Hamilton. The second half of the story is sadder, quieter, doesn't have as many great songs at all. It just doesn't feel quite the same. And that's just the way that is. That's just the way like a lot of stories go, and it's not anybody's fault necessarily, but it does put a bit of a damper on it when you kind of go, yeah, let's watch Wicked, and then you spend the last like 2 hours being like kind of sad. Or Hamilton, or a lot of these things. It is the way that a lot of musical theatre projects go. It's a shame. But I just don't know if there's anything that they could have done to make this bigger or better, or have fixed it more, or I don't know. But it is a step down. If we were judging it in just Hollywood sequel terms, you'd say, well, it was a step down from the first one. They did rehash some of the songs from the first one to try and like give us that nostalgia for it. They don't really come out with as many bangers. The story is fine, you know, it goes to a satisfying conclusion. They did well with that, but it's just a clear step down, isn't it? Not a bad one though, and I do think retrospectively we're all gonna not really have a problem with this film, but genuinely Wicked was one of my absolute favorite films of last year, and I just can't say the same thing about this. That's the bottom line, you know? So I'm giving Wicked for good enough 4 stars. Like, it is still good, you know, I cannot deny that. I still really enjoyed it. It just, yeah. That's just the come down. Like, you get to see great things in every musical, but how many of them, like, their last song is actually the best one? I don't know.